Regular meeting of October 12th to order. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, God, for bringing us here safely tonight. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make the right decisions for our community. And this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martinez.
Present.
Aldermiller. Reed.
Present.
Bradford.
Present.
Mayor Marquez.
Present. Item number 5, these are communications from the staff. Is there any staff communications at this time? Chief?
Yes, Mayor and City Council. You've charged me with being able to grant parade permits, and I have two. We have the Homecoming Parade, which is coming on Friday, October 22nd at 1 p.m. And the second is going to be the West Side Band Review Classic coming on the 30th of this month. So these are our events that we do annually, and we anticipate just with these things going off without a flaw and everybody having a great time. Especially with Homecoming, I think, after their victory of last week. So they really charged up. Thank you.
All right, item number 6, these are items from the public. These are non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Are there any non-agenda items at this time? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
There is nobody else? I was hoping I'd be second or third or fourth.
Yeah. Come on up.
My name is Pamela Cleek. I am the Newman representative for the Stanislaus Disabled Mayors Committee. I spoke to you about 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I have to tell you how much I appreciate all of you. I was going to put it in the paper and let him run it for me, but I never made it that far. Anyway, Sheila, you thought maybe we thought we would be first to donate money. We were second. Series was first with 300, and they really are asking for 300. In front of you, I have a little copy of the minutes where we had the meeting. And on the back side, I yellowed in the part about the money, the treasurer's report. And if you look on down a little further, it says under video, they have figured out that it'll cost approximately $3,000. And so we were $50 short of what they would like to ask us for. So whether you folks can come up with another $50 somewhere along between now and when they start, that would be appreciated. I told Charles I was going to offer to pay $20 if you folks had come up with 5 apiece. But I don't know if we're going to do that or not. Do what you'd like to do, and we'll go from there. The other thing is that in the Newman paper, the West Side Index very kindly put in there for me the invitation to the public to come to the Disability Awareness Day at the mall in Modesto. And I need to tell you that they told me they sent out sent this little publication to almost everyone in the area, and I think they said we might have been the only one. So I'm taking it to put in our album, a copy of the paper where he put it in the paper for us. You folks are so nice, West Side Index. Also, I had the privilege of seeing on television one day young man who was a quadriplegic who could move nothing but his head. And it showed had a thing goes around his head with a little wand. It came down to a little thing like a little computer, and he could touch certain parts of it, and a voice would come out and talk to you. I got to actually see that at the Disability Awareness Day at Modesto. It was really mind-boggling to think that someone in a body that can't move anything except the head and still has a brain in there, how this must make them feel. to be able to communicate to you certain things. They use microchips, I'm sure. He kind of explained that to me. And that made the whole visit, if nothing else. And then I was able to send several people. A young man came who was just paralyzed from the waist down. He was a senior in high school, wanted to work in the police department where they take the calls and send people out, kind of like 911 to do dispatcher. That's the term. I was able to send him to the people to talk to, how to find out how he could do that. Do you know that makes you feel really good to be able to help someone know what they can do to help themselves? This young man will go far. The optimism and the cheerfulness in his voice was really wonderful to see. I'd like to, I'm telling you folks all this because next year when they do this was my first time. I would like to see someone from Newman there. I didn't see anybody. That doesn't mean they weren't there because I was only there for about 3 hours, but it would be nice if we had more people involved in it from our town. And I say this is my town too. And that's it. I just wanted to say thank you and how wonderful it was and how much they appreciate Newman. They're thrilled to death to have us back in action, and I hope you'll come up with the other $50. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What is the council's wishes on this? This is actually a non-agenda item, so I'm not sure if we can even.
Bring it up at the next meeting if the
We
council-
we could bring this back at the next meeting since this is a non-agenda item, but we could bring it back, and we'll notify you. Okay. Are there any other non-agenda items at this time? If not, we'll move on to the agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter in the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor and the council grants a longer period of time. Item number 7, these are public hearings. There are none this evening. Item number 8, can I see your updated agenda? Yeah. Thanks. Item 8, this is a consent calendar. 8A is approval of warrants. 8B, approval of minutes of the September 14th, 1999 regular meeting. Item C, this is an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying zoning maps known as Sherman Ranch. Item D, an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance for Walnut Creek Estates. Item 8E, this is second reading and adoption. Ordinance number 99-19, amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying zoning maps for the South Newman annexation. F, Resolution 99, next to number, resolution of intention to approve an amendment to contract between the Board of Administration, California Public Employees Retirement System, and the City Council of the City of Newman. Item G is to adopt resolution of the City Council to approve the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the City of Newman. Item H, to receive and file a file protection report and authorize payment of $5,000 to Maxfield Associates for the City of Newman's participation in the study. And item I is to reject the claim for damages by Shondale King against City of Newman. Are there any questions on any of the items? If not, we could take these all at once.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Item 9, this is regular business. 9A, this is to direct staff to prepare appropriate amendments to the city code to allow sale of fireworks in late December 1999. Cleve?
As you know, the state approved a law, I guess it was, or passed a bill allowing for fireworks to be sold at the turn of the century, January of 2000. Previously, they were only allowed at the in July, around the July 4th holiday. So we've been researching some things, trying to figure out how to do this, and some cities have already done it, and we wanted to bring this back to the council and ask the council for sure if you want to direct us to prepare this ordinance so that fireworks could be sold at this time. Judy has been doing some research on it, trying to figure out, you know, what does need to be done. And I don't know, Judy, do you have anything else to add to that on this item? No? Okay, right. We have, who? A representative from one of the fireworks companies. I don't know if you had anything you'd like to say tonight, or if you do, you're welcome to
Sure,
come to the
come on
podium
up.
and make some comments on that.
Yes, I'm Steve Streeter. I'm with Phantom Fireworks, a wholesale distributor. Basically, what I came to Judy, I guess it was a week or two ago, trying to get an ordinance passed for the city to adopt fireworks sales for the
Can you
millennium.
hold the microphone up a little bit so they can hear you? Go.
And so I'm just basically here to answer any questions you might have as far as what other cities are doing. Try to let you know that there are groups here in the city that are interested in selling fireworks for the millennium. And kind of go from there. I think before you've been under the Stanislaus County kind of guidelines. I don't know that you have an ordinance existing at this time.
That's right.
And Stanislaus County has not yet made a decision on what they're going to do. So that's why I tried to move forward and try to get the city to do something on their own, because we don't know which way they're going to go with the, as busy as they are with tire fire and things like that going on. They're not sure whether they're gonna allow it or not. So if there's anything I can answer, any questions or anything, I'd be glad to do that.
Are there any questions?
The sales dates on this 26th through the 31st?
That is what the state has adopted. Yes, most cities have gone from 28th to the 31st, and the reason for that is to try to allow some leeway for properties to be put on as far as Christmas tree lots. I don't know if you have that situation here, but you know, in the city it's a little bit different. Parking lots are pretty busy with other pumpkin sales and Christmas tree lots, so it kind of helps out that way. But it's kind of up to you what you want to adopt.
I would imagine the same standards and restrictions would apply to this fireworks sale as they do in the 4th of July
Sure,
fireworks
everything's
sale.
pretty much the same. We are asking that you allow some type of fireproofing tarp or canopy to be put over the stand, because the wood stands are flat topped and they aren't exactly water sealed or anything like that. The city of Modesto has adopted an ordinance to allow a flame retardant tarp to be put over and attached to the top to help keep any water out, if there is any kind of rainstorm or something that may go on. And I think I did give that to Judy, all the ordinances that the city of Modesto has adopted, and they are going to probably be approving tonight, as the public safety did last week. So now it's just going to council.
Also, as this being cold weather, we want to limit the type of heating they would have around there to keep
Yeah,
that's warm.
that's correct. City of Modesto is not allowing any electricity. They're saying if their hours of operation are going to be from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And they're only going to allow battery-operated lighting, and that's one reason why they cut the hours back, so that there wouldn't be any extremely cold situations where people would go to heaters or any type of devices that may cause problems. So that's kind of where that's at right now. Those City of Series has gone from a 9 to 9 type thing. They're saying that that's not enough time for people to get off work and go purchase fireworks. That they're saying they're allowing a little bit more time. So you may take that into consideration, being that this community also has a lot of people who travel a long way to work and so forth.
Are there any other questions up here? I know we have a question from some. Yeah, if you'd like, you could ask. If it's shorter, you could either have me, say it.
What is the consideration for possibly using like a building instead of a stand?
That'd probably be up to your local fire department what they were going to allow. I know that
We do have some vacant buildings in town.
correct. And that'd be up to your. Yeah, I would say that it has to be pretty much a freestanding building. You don't want to get into a situation where you got other buildings attached to it that could cause problems that way. If a fire did occur, you don't want to be able to get it to spread too much. You want to keep it localized. but although we haven't had a fire in quite a few years.
Okay. Well, I wonder what the chief, fire chief would, how he would feel about the, something like that. Mel, with regards to in the building, would there be a problem with that?
Well, I'll have to go along with the rest of what the county's gonna do, I don't know what they're gonna do yet. So
Okay.
Whatever they have to have the street stands, the stands of their own, that's what they're gonna have.
Okay.
They'll
Okay.
find out here pretty quick though.
Yeah, the last I talked to Mr. Wiegard, they still hadn't made a decision
Okay.
whether they were going to allow it or not.
Okay.
And they said right now they're just so tied up with other things, they didn't even have time to think about it. So my feeling was they weren't going to allow it, my
Okay.
personal feeling. But
Okay.
County wasn't gonna
the
allow it.
county wasn't going to allow it. Only because they're so tied up with other things. And they just didn't have time to do the inspections and so forth like that. So.
Okay, so what would the, okay. Are there any other questions up here with regard to this?
I wonder if perhaps we should table it until we hear from the city on what their requirements are
What,
going to be.
what we're,
Modesto, I'm
what we're
assuming you mean.
proposing is that we just
County.
yeah, continue to research it and bring back, you know, as much information as we can to allow you to make a better decision if the council still wants to pursue this and see if it's, you know, we may find something that would make it, you know, prohibitive that we don't want to do it. Right now, we haven't really come across that, but,
Well, I mean, I'd like to see us go forward on this. I mean, it seems to me that this is gonna, you know, there's some different clubs in town that can participate in this, but, I mean, regardless of what the county decides to do, I mean, you know, certainly we wanna have guidelines and everything else, you know, we wanna make sure that we don't, you know, yeah, we wanna make sure that and I know Mel won't let us, you know, go below any guidelines that we
Yeah.
need to meet, but I think regardless of what, you know, the county's gonna decide to do on this, you know, this millennium's only gonna come every,
Right.
you know.
We're getting down to kind of crunch time too, because we're talking about having to file for state fire marshal licenses,
Mhm.
any local permits we'd have to file here. We're getting down to where it's almost time to make a decision. If
Right.
we're waiting any longer, you know,
Because we're already in the middle of October here already, and,
Right.
I mean, you know, obviously, you know, what the pleasure is of the entire council here, but, you know, I don't have any problem with this moving forward on it, but like I said, you know, what the county does, the county's gonna do. But, you know, we're gonna make sure that we have, you know, just like on the 4th of July, we have guidelines, we have restrictions and everything else that, from the sounds of it, this thing's gonna follow the same thing that,
Correct.
you know, 4th of July.
Everything should be the same. Like I said, the only thing that probably would run into problems would be, one is to try to waterproof the stands the best we can. And I know the City of Modesto Public Safety Council, which has 3 council members, and the fire marshal has agreed to allow stands with the tarps. They outline their times available and dates available for sales. And you know, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't pass tonight in the City of Modesto's council meeting, being that they've already have 3 council members who approved on this. And the fire marshals and 2 vendors all agreed to these guidelines. So, and I gave those guidelines to Judy. So you have those, should have those pretty much outlined as far as what they're going to allow.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty good guidelines to go by. If you need help with, you know, with what you want to do.
Steve, if I can ask you a question, I understand that, and I think maybe this is the way the city of Patterson does it, is planning on doing it, is that they're actually going to sell coupons or something and then just do a distribution a couple of days before?
We first had thought of that, and we went to the city with that, and the state fire marshal basically shot it down, saying that you cannot distribute fireworks without, comes into tax laws and stuff like that you cannot do it out of a trailer without being able to accept tax at that time. And because you had to exchange money, they weren't going to allow you to do it out of a trailer. So that's why the state fire marshal said you have to have a stand location in order to pre-sell.
Okay.
So we're back to stands again.
So
But you
just-
can pre-sell, but you have to do it through a stand, through a regular stand.
Yeah.
You cannot do it through any kind of distribution point unless it's a stand.
I see. Okay, thank you.
I just have one.
Well, I know, you gotta come up.
Oh,
You gotta give your name and address for the record.
Hi, Carmen Darcy with the West Side Niners. Just from several years of experience in working fireworks booths during the 4th of July holiday, one thing to consider is the evening hours. If they're, the electricity availability is a concern, because even when the weather is good, that's when most people come out, is in the evening, especially in our community with all the commuters and stuff. So that is something that we're going to have to definitely take a look at, is hours of operation, and how are we going to be able to accommodate electricity and lights and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had talked to Mel earlier in the week about the feasibility and possibility of maybe using, one of the buildings in town, not downtown, of course, because you don't want the display downtown in case there was a problem. But, if that's a possibility, regardless of what the county decides, I think we still need to figure out where our guidelines are and just go ahead and make a decision. And I know, again, from experience, it takes at least 4 to 6 weeks to get things organized. You got to do your state board permits and all that stuff too, and that all takes time. So the sooner the better.
Okay.
We'll bring this back to the council then on the 26th, is that right? Yeah, 26th. Yeah, we have one more, come on up. Just mention quickly, Mel, and you may be able to add on this more, but my understanding, there's some very strict guidelines in the fire code as far as storing of flammable materials inside a building, which would probably possibly be more strict in a permanent structure. But we can review that more and make sure that that we have all the guidelines in place before we approving it.
Ken Rose, 2118 Creek Court in Newman, and I'm representing the Oristimba Band Boosters with regarding the fireworks sale. The question I have to Mr. Morris is, if you're directing the staff to bring back an ordinance allowing it, or are you just, is it your desire that the council just table it until the 26th?
No, I was asking that the well, I want us to bring back information, but also bring back the ordinance prepared for adoption, if that's the way the council wants to go, so that it can be adopted on the 26th.
Okay, so on your agenda item tonight is, what is the intent of the council? I mean, what on the recommendation?
That's what we're asking the council, is do they want us to prepare that ordinance and prepare that information so that they can adopt it?
The 26th, that's what, 2 weeks away still. With the form of having to establish if it is going to happen, we need to know if the council is going to allow the fireworks, not so much the actual selling of it, but all the guidelines that we have to establish and everything that we need to get going if this is going to be a fundraiser for our organization. If it's not, many of us had set fundraising with regard to it happening. If it doesn't happen, we need to know now, not on the 26th, so that we can start identifying other sources of revenue for these kids. Yeah. It doesn't seem like a lot. It just seems like it's a simple statement. Well, we'll just table it for 2 weeks. There's a much bigger impact involved with it. I mean, even as late as it is now, and I would encourage the city council to please go forward and allow the youth of this community to help raise funds themselves instead of constantly going to other organizations. And this is an opportunity for them to do just that.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I think, I guess what I was saying a minute ago was, I don't see any problem with doing these fireworks here. And, I guess what you're asking the city, if we want to do these fireworks, I mean, to me, that, it doesn't sound like it's really an issue as far as, if we're going to have it, I guess we're talking about from December 26th through 31st, but, we could go ahead and say that we're going to allow fireworks, but I guess what Cleve is saying, you just want to bring back the appropriate language.
So
well,
we
we cannot do it without adopting an ordinance to allow
but we can say,
but
yes,
you
we'd
can
like to
say, yes,
prepare an
go ahead with it,
ordinance
bring back the ordinance for us to do it at the next meeting. And
Would that be satisfactory? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I guess with that, we could go ahead and move forward on this with the understanding that we're going to move forward on this, and the city manager will bring back at the next meeting the appropriate language as far as with the fire code and so forth.
Can we have a motion to that
Sure.
effect?
I'll make a motion that we approve fireworks sales for late December 1999, subject to approval of the ordinance at the meeting of the 26th.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Thank you. Item number 9B, this is a resolution adopting the final budget for fiscal 99-2000. Margaret?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. In June, we adopted the preliminary budget, and traditionally, council waits until labor negotiations are completed before a final budget's adopted. Tonight, we've gotten to that point, and before you is the 1999-2000 final budget. Basically, the discussion tonight should focus on the changes which have occurred since the preliminary budget was adopted in June and tonight's final budget. One major question is, why are there changes in the first place? Well, first of all, timing is a critical issue. Some projects that were anticipated to be completed by June of 1990 were not. Some projects that we didn't think could be completed by June of 1990 were. So this would make a change in the current year's budget, either taking away monies that were budgeted for the current year or needing to add them. An example of this is the housing the senior housing project. We had budgeted $353,000 out of set-aside money for more work on the senior project. The purchase and the loan made to the developers occurred in June, so I had to remove that from the preliminary budget. So there was a savings this year of $353,000, but there is no net effect because that cash was spent last year. Secondly, more information becomes available as time goes on. More information and better information. Estimates, as the year closes, estimates will become more accurate for this year. Thirdly, the state budget was adopted. That was a net increase to the city of Newman for $40,000 plus, which we couldn't count on back in June when we adopted our preliminary budget. This covers ERAF, the reimbursement for property tax shift. It covers booking fees reimbursement and also the state COPS grant program. Another item that makes changes occur are adjustments that are made from one fund to another. This is done to either reconcile the fund. When we go through the budget and actually budget one fund and see that one fund is in the hole, it's necessary to turn to the general fund to balance the budget. Also to reimburse. And in our case also, there was funding coming from the home program. $40,000 is administrative fee. The city will get $15,000 of that, which the total funds were already budgeted in the preliminary budget, but we did not credit general fund for the administrative fee coming in, and so that is an increase, but no net effect again, no change to the overall effect of the budget. We also created a new fund that occurred after July 1st, the Business Loan Revolving Fund coming out of RDA bond money. It shows an increase in one fund and a decrease in another. The third item why there are changes is that things are added to the budget from July 1st forward. There are projects added, new items added, such as the meter readers that were you approved 2 months ago, the handheld meter readers for $12,000. That wasn't anticipated in June. The Fall Festival insurance and other items that have come before council since July 1. Salary negotiations are now complete. That also would make changes from the preliminary budget to the final budget. Basically, overall revenue changes. There is a net increase of $284,000. There's a net increase in expenditures of $2,889. Within your text in the staff report, there is a table that describes the different type of categories where all these changes occur, where you could see that there are transfers sometime from one fund to another, or where increases or decreases occur, excuse me, in the expenditure side. That's on the second page of your staff report. On the top, your titles are, if it's salaries or benefits, contract services. This gives you a picture of where the $2,800 comes from. Also, you have summarized in the staff report where exactly the major components that make up these changes. And I will address any of these if you like, or we can just proceed.
Are there any questions for Margaret? Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. The most important sheet, in my opinion, for the budget is the income statement, taking the cash that was left over, and this was just an estimate when we adopted the preliminary budget. Now it's final totals. The cash that was left over of June of '99 with the expected revenue that we hope to bring in and the expected expenditures. And that brings forward our new projected cash as of June 30th, year 2000. I've included the receivables just to let you know that this is cash that's outstanding. The general fund does expect about $599,000 from the RDA fund for a note that was drawn several years ago. This cannot be paid back at this time. The RDA's tax increment is obligated first to the bond payments, the interest and principal, but someday, somewhere, this will be paid back. So we have more than the $230,000 in the bank for general fund, but right now we can't expect that $600,000 in the immediate future. Overall, it looks pretty good. The following page is the page that shows the projected budget, the revised projected income against the revised expenses. And the concerns that exist, one in the general fund, this is the first year that the general fund current year's expected revenue and current year expected expenditures, the expenditures are greater than the revenue, and it's at a tune of $29,000. The only other problem fund is storm drain. There is no set means of accruing revenue for that particular fund. Gas tax and LTF, our street project fund, have been reconciled. The LTF fund is a little short this particular year, but again, we budget projects in their total amount, even though it is well known that it's going to take 2-3 years to complete them. And within that 2-3 year period, other LTF funds will become available. So basically, the variance between projected revenue and projected expenses is $482,000. The major source of this variance is because we received the cash from the RDA bond 2 years ago, and from that $3.5 million, we're going to continue for the next 30 years spending that. And there's no more money coming in from the bond. This is followed by summaries of where the changes are from the preliminary to the final budget in revenue and the preliminary and the final budget in expenses. And that is followed by the detailed portion of every line item number, the revenue and expenses. So I guess this evening we're asking that council adopt the final budget. Yes.
Are there any questions on any of these items for Margaret?
Can I just make one point quickly? Margaret brought out the general fund difference of a negative of $29,000 on page S2. If you recall, in your preliminary budget, I believe that was approximately $40,000 at that time. So we are a little bit better now than we were with the preliminary budget. That has gone down from $40,000 to $29,000. But that is still a concern, as I mentioned when we did the preliminary budget. That's something that can maybe happen for 1 year, but we do not want that to go on from year to year. Eventually, you run out of money if you do that. So that is a concern that we do need to rectify in the coming year.
Anything else, Margaret?
Nope.
Any other questions? Okay. Can we have some action on this item, please?
I so move that we adopt a resolution adopting the final budget for the fiscal year 1999 to 2000.
I'll second that.
You need one for the RDA and one for the city to rebuild. However,
We have one for the redevelopment agency, a
We
second
have-
resolution.
We have the two resolutions in here and the 5th page in, Bob. One for the redevelopment, the next one's the resolution for the... You could just go ahead and take each one at a time. Oh, you know, what, do we have to, hold on, let me see, we have to meet as a redevelopment agency though to adopt it?
Just a second.
Okay. So the first one would do the redevelopment agency
We might
for
have to
the,
turn as the redevelopment agency to do that.
yeah.
That way, that's
Okay.
found out today, so. I need to put that on the 26th.
The RDA part will go, okay. Just go ahead.
Margaret, if we hold the RDA portion off till the 26th, does that cause you any problem? Because we failed to properly notice that on our agenda that way, so, okay.
Okay. So we could just do the, this one here. Those
Just
the
do,
second
just
one.
do the
This is
city
just
one
the
and
fiscal
hold off
budget.
the
Okay.
RDA one, yeah.
Okay. You did the motion already.
I did the motion, I think we had a
Yeah, it's been
second.
seconded.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent, and we will bring back the redevelopment portion on the meeting on the 26th. Item 9C, this is a request from the Orristimba Band Boosters to provide insurance coverage for band review on October 30th, 1999. Cleve?
Okay. Mayor and council, you have attached my report and a letter from Ken and Julie Rose, who are also in the audience with us tonight, requesting that the city pay for the insurance for the band review, which is an annual event. I understand this is the 20th, right? And it's a very good event. I want to say that up front, as my report is not the most positive. I'm not criticizing the event at all. What I have done in this report is present it to you. It is staff's recommendation that we deny this request based on the fact that we're concerned that these will continue to come in, different events. We've funded partially, as you know, the Fall Festival, the Fun Run, and then this one is coming up. As I mentioned in my report, I've been in contact with a person that is interested in organizing a Cinco de Mayo event, and staff has a concern that whether or not we can do all of these, and that we're going to have to cut it off somewhere. So it is our recommendation that we, to you, that we do not sponsor the cost of the insurance. I've noted in here last year the cost was $278 to pay for the insurance for this event. The band boosters did pay that last year. We didn't pay it. They ran it through the city's insurance program, but they paid the cost. I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have, and I'll give it back to the council and also to the Roses that they can
Sure, why don't you come on
comment.
up?
Yeah.
Good evening. We're Ken and Julie Rose, and we're both the president. We are the president of the Band Boosters this year, because it's a tough job, so we're doing it together. We thank you for even considering this, because this is the first year that we've actually asked the city to sponsor it to pay for the insurance rather than the Band Boosters taking it on. One of the reasons that we've asked for that is because we're not sure if you understand that the West Side Classic is not a fundraiser for the Band Boosters. It funds it. Whatever we generate pays for the classic itself. If we do make any profit, it rolls over to the following year to pay for it, because there's a lot of expenses in it, and the fees that each band brings basically pays for the judges and a little bit more, because they're very expensive. We have 45 bands coming this year, and again, it's our largest. Again, last year was our largest, now we're bigger. It's a huge event. It would just because it's not a fundraiser, we'd really appreciate if the city was able to pick up that portion for us to help us pay for the classic.
It's also an influx of money into the community with limited expenditure to the city in the form of staff and logistics. Some of the merchants in town, some of the restaurants have indicated that on the day of the West Side Classic, it is their most busiest day, busier than any of the fall festivals or any of the other days. They make more money on that day because of the number of people that are there. It's just, over 3,000 people come, and they're there for their kids to support, and kids like to spend money. Parents like to, by duress, we spend money for the kids. It's a benefit. A lot of the merchants in town benefit from it. And so we're encouraging and we're asking. We realize that perhaps maybe the sales tax might spike on that day, that maybe we could, you know, a little bit of the benefit might be to allow us this opportunity. That's what we're looking for, is a little help. We understand, yes, last year we did pay for it. You know, we're just encouraged and hoping that this is a well-known event statewide, and we usually to have this many high school bands want to come to Newman. It's because the community supports it and the merchants support it. It's not, you know, we haven't had any complaints. That's not, if there have been complaints, they haven't been directed to us. That's all I know. And so it is a benefit, and we hope that the council can see their way through to allow us this opportunity and to go ahead and cover the cost of the rider.
Also, Mr. Morris, your letter did sound positive about the classic, because you definitely, no, you did. We didn't take it as a rejection in any sort.
Thank you.
We understand budget and all that stuff. We totally understand that. We're just also asking that the council look at this as an individual thing and not compare us to any other event that's happening in the town. Because I know that was a concern for opening doors, and I totally understand that. But we do ask you to consider this as a single event and look at what we're doing and how the town is benefiting
what the
from
benefit
it,
is.
and make your decision based on that. Thank you.
Any
If you have any
questions?
questions, let us
Thank
know.
you. Are there any questions?
I've got a thought. Don't get many of those, but if the merchants are benefiting from this, have you spoken to the Chamber of Commerce about possibly sponsoring this or paying for the?
No, we haven't.
We,
No,
we
we
haven't talked to them specifically about this particular cost. We have contacted many of the merchants and asked them to help us in other areas.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, if, you know, they're the ones going to benefit primarily from this, so they may be willing to do that.
You're right. We haven't gone that route yet. We were also thinking that the city also is benefiting, I believe, also from the
Revenue
I mean, I would
sales.
think. So,
So
it was,
everybody, we're
it was-
asking anybody that does have a benefit or a stake involved to at least help us, and the community as a whole. It's, you know, we hope that people want to continue coming.
Well, we've discussed this before about cutting this off, but there was never any specific date mentioned to do this. You know, that we've got to, you know, get organized and have a certain fund for this and divide it up equally or whatever. But there's been no specific date for this, so I just think that we ought to think about it and consider possibly doing it. And in the meantime, come up with a specific cutoff date. Say, okay, there's nothing else coming, this is it,
Yeah,
or whatever.
One other point that I failed to make, and I don't think I made in here, we do also sponsor the mayor's trophy for the event, which is $100, which we contribute towards that each year. And that is, I believe we've already paid that for this year.
yes, you have.
Made that
We're very
contribution.
grateful for that.
Budgeted item. I'm just interested in fairness, and we've talked about this before when we did the initial insurance contribution for, I believe the first one was a fun run. And, you know, the concern was, can we be fair to all the groups that are coming to us? We need a specific policy for how we're going to do this. I don't see, you know, I see the benefit just as much from this band review as I did from the fund run to the community. I'd like to see us sponsor it, but we also need to get a specific policy prepared so that, you know, in the future we're not having to cut somebody off that deserves it just as much as another group. You know, can we be fair? Can we earmark a set amount, say, I don't know, $250 cap for any group? But, you know, I don't think it's fair to the band review to say, as of now, we're going to cut it off because, you know, we might have a flood. But we do need a specific policy so that we can be fair in the future. But I would agree with David, we need to, I'd like to see us do this sponsorship.
Yeah, I would concur, you know, that there's some way we have to put a cap on this, you know, that there's not unlimited funding for this sort of thing, but we need some sort of budget or something that gives us the guidelines that we know we have X number of dollars that we can use for this sort of thing, because there's a limit, but we certainly, like you say, Sheila, we have to be fair to everyone when we have this type of policy. So I'm not sure how to handle it at this point, but And I know exactly what you're trying to do, Cleavers. You're saying we have to stop somewhere and
Yeah.
take a look at this and be realistic, so I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, I hate to sound like the Scrooge here, but you know, we've all just seen, you know, Margaret's given us this report on this general fund, you know, being some $29,050 in the red, which doesn't bode very well for us. And I could understand what everybody's saying as far as this cutoff point. I know we're talking about $278, but I would request that that we do something as far as what we had talked about before in this community promotion fund, which this stuff comes out of with the fall festival, I believe, and some of these other things, that we've got to have a set amount. And you know, we encourage everybody who's got these programs, you know, in these events to come to us early. You know, that way we could get, you know, January and February, we get an idea what, you know, what events we're going to have happening here. That way we could fund this. But you know, again, I hate to be the Scrooge on this, but you know, it's a wonderful event. But I'm going to ask that, there's 3 votes here, so I know how it's going to go. But I'm going to ask that we draw the line on this one. But again, it's at the pleasure of the council. And I don't mind being outvoted. It's just a matter of hearing our finance director going through these figures and everything, and I get a little worried as well. But again, I'll ask for some direction from the council, and I don't mind having us move forward on this.
Is there a way we can say, let's fund this, but as of this point on,
Until we come up with
we
a
don't
specific...
have any further, until we come up with specific
Yeah,
policy or plan, or a specific fund that it's going to come from, we won't be able to accept any more requests.
Because we had talked about a cutoff date for a while, and it just sort of dropped, and it kind of...
Can we get this is an agenda item in the next month probably, and come up
See
with
what we
a
put
figure and how much, you know, we're going to do and when it will start.
Yeah.
We'll say this is it for this year, and
Yeah.
because it's almost the end of the year anyway. So
We'll have a policy that spells out these things, and so we
Yeah.
can present this to all these different groups that are going to come to us, and here's our policy.
Mhm.
And we only have so much.
Okay. Can we get some direction on this?
Do you want to?
Be my guest.
I move that we appropriate let's see, an amount of $278 to fund provide the insurance coverage for the band review on October 30th. Did I get the amount right?
Yeah, would that just be, we don't know exactly what it will be. Do you want to say not to exceed $278?
Yes.
And it may be a little bit, we don't know how it might be adjusted. But.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Can I ask, were you including in that your request that
Let me
it
amend
is cut
that.
off here?
To say, I move that we appropriate an amount not to exceed $278 to provide insurance coverage for the band review on October 30th, 1999, and that staff be directed to prepare a policy for council's consideration for future funding of future events.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we had a motion and a second. Actually, on this, we'll do a roll call. Councilmember Martina?
Yes.
Councilmember Radford?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Actually, Judy was with, and I vote no on it. So the motion passes 3-1 with 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask questions?
Uh-oh.
My mayor's committee.
That'll be back at the next...
This is Pamela Cleek coming at you again. I want to know if the mayor's committee is going to fall under this kind of thing, for donations. Because if it is, I want to be in your budget next year.
Well, that's, you know, and that's what
Yeah.
we had been talking about, that we wanted to, you know, and we know all these events are good for the city, the West Side Classic, the Fall Festival, and everything else. Unfortunately, what has occurred is we have X amount in our community promotion budget, and we try to get as many of these as possible. But as you all heard Margaret a minute ago talking about this shortfall in the general fund that, that's cause for concern, and, we're all concerned about it as well, but, we just figure we have to have a policy. At the beginning of the year, everybody needs to get their events in, that way we could
Yeah.
sort of figure out
See,
what we're
that's what
gonna
I
do.
was told 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and I tried. So, but it does, that means that, right? So should we always be ready to kind of bounce in there the
Yes.
first part of the year so that you'll get
The
it in
earlier the
there?
better, that way, and these annual events where everybody knows that it's gonna happen this particular month out of the year, it's better for us, and it's better for Margaret, to help her out as far as, not having to do these budget amendments and having to come back with us with revised figures and everything,
Right.
so the sooner the better.
What caused us to be in the red again? Not enough tax revenue?
Not enough revenue.
We need to get our businesses going, huh? More money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 9D, this is to authorize the purchase of a new police car. Chief?
I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to come up. I understand we're in the red, so. But basically, this year's current budget, even though it has a little shortfall, is including funding for a new police car to replace a car that's currently doing this job but is not very reliable. The car we want to replace is a 1994 Crown Victoria that has over 100,000 miles and one collision behind it. This car will not really stand the rigors of police work, but we have found a use for it as part of our VIN program, which is the Volunteers in Newman. They can use this car to go to help the department in doing tasks of transporting reports to court, the district attorney's office, the crime lab, and that's just to name a few of the areas that they probably would be going to, plus helping us out with things such as the band review and other events. We'd like to make this purchase and keep the cost down, as there are not many of the 99 models that are left, and we may have to incur an additional cost if we want to go for the year 2000 car. If we chose to wait, we would probably have to be on a waiting list for this vehicle, as the advanced orders are being filled as we speak. Currently, what we're looking to purchase is the Ford vehicle, the Crown Victoria. Chevy only offers a car that is very small, which is a Cavalier, and the Suburban, which is a little bit large for our needs. So we're looking at going with the state bid. There are 3 vendors for this service for the state bid contract. That's Wondry's Fleet Division out of Alhambra, that's to the south, and then Downtown Ford out of Sacramento to the north. But we also have been able to contact and been successful in the last 2 years of using Patchett's, our local vendor, for this. I received bids from either by letter or by telephone from each of these vendors, and as you can see, Patchett's comes pretty close on the mark. So basically, that's what, in a nutshell, what we're looking for as far as a new vehicle is concerned, and I'm looking at authorized to purchase this vehicle.
Are there any questions for the chief? Were there a lot more features on the 2000 model than there were on the 1999 model in terms of?
Actually, it looks like the car is very similar. I don't see a drastic difference in the. There may be some kind of a trim difference, but I haven't seen anything that's been major. Other than 2000.
Have you made a decision on purchasing at either Downtown Ford or Patchett's?
I would prefer to go through Patchett's, the local
Well, I was
vendor.
going to say the difference would make up, at least the sales tax would go.
That's the way
here
I'm looking
rather
at this
than-
too.
yeah.
That we're probably talking about $1,700 in sales tax, with only about a $400 difference between the 2 bids.
Right.
Do
And
most-
plus, oh, go ahead,
I'm
Sheila.
sorry, do most police departments use Crown Victorias?
Yes, that's the.
That's the standard?
That's a
for
standard
police?
car at this point.
That's what you're driving?
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, I remember about, I don't know, maybe it's been 5 years ago now, when we were purchasing some equipment from Garton. We had asked, we had set something up where if they were within a certain percent or something like that, I wasn't sure exactly what the thing was, but I remember, we wanted to buy it local.
By all means,
And
yeah.
anyway. That's fine. I mean, I would prefer to make sure that we buy it local as well.
Mhm.
Is there any other questions or comments? Can we have some direction, please?
I make a motion that we authorize the purchase of the new police car.
From Patchett.
From Patchett's, yeah.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with one absent.
Thank you.
Mike. Well, you might as well stay up there.
Right, that's
Item
where I'm
9E
staying.
is this an informational report on the animal control services? Mike?
Mike, if I can, you can go ahead with this if you'd like, council. One of the council members, Altamiller had a real concern about this, and I'd like to propose that the council may want to consider tabling this item until Councilmember Altamiller is here. We don't have to do that, but it's just a suggestion, whatever the council's pleasure is.
I would concur with that.
Yes.
Okay, we will table item 9E for the meeting on the 26th. Okay. Item 9F,
Thank you.
this is to the reinitiation of the Newman Economic Development Committee. Cleve?
The mayor requested that I look into this committee and put it on our agenda to have the council reconsider it. I just had a brief amount of time to look into that. I've given you just some small amount of information as far as how it was set up and what existed before. I think it's a great idea to restart this. I've talked to some people in the community and some things that could be done to make this work. And I don't have a problem with it. I guess I would turn the time back to the mayor if he would like to discuss this more.
Okay. Yeah, as Cleve had stated, I had brought this back to his attention to, as we all know, this was started a couple years ago, and it sort of fell by the wayside, and unfortunately, things didn't move forward like we had hoped that they would on some things. I had asked Cleve to bring this back to reinitiate this. That way we could get rolling on some Newman Economic Development Committee or some Newman Economic Development projects that we'd like to see get going end of this year, early next year, just to get rolling on things again. I had specifically asked Susan Mattis, who's here tonight, to chair this committee. One of the things that I'm going to ask the council is, as far as the way it's set up, is previously when this committee was in effect, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the mayor was the one that had would call the meetings as needed and things like that. I'm proposing that since Susan would chair the committee, that she would call the meetings as appropriate, since she would be the chair of it. I had asked her at some point here pretty quick if she could give me a list of people that she feels that she would feel comfortable working with the community through the different areas that we've outlined here, and just to and I imagine some of this will be funded out of redevelopment if there are requests from the Economic Development Committee, and basically this will be an ad hoc committee, which there won't be the Brown Act requirements and some of the other things, just to allow for allow them some latitude to go out and about. But if we could possibly reinitiate this and move forward, if there are any comments or questions, those are my comments on that. But if there are any other comments or questions on this?
Susan, you have anything to say? Right.
I know. Susan Mattis, 744 Hardin Road. Charles came to me and discussed this idea with me about reinitiating this Economic Development Committee, which I think is really important. And a couple of things I just kind of want you to understand my ideas on how it would actually come together. There would be no funding for this committee. It would basically be a volunteer committee who would meet and discuss ideas and proposals for what we feel would be important and a direction maybe for the city to go. And those recommendations would then come back to you as the council and possibly the redevelopment agency, either for funding or direction. And basically we really don't have any say, and you would actually be our voice. We would come to you with proposals either through Cleve, who we would see as being our staff person per se. And my idea would be that we have 5 committee members from the community from various phases of business, whether it be retail, industrial, and agriculture. And those 5 people, in addition to Cleve and Charles, would meet hopefully on a regular basis, come up with some goals for this committee and for the direction that we'd like to see us go. Major thought of mine would be to work pretty closely with the county in trying to get some ideas as to what they feel would be happening with our area. And since I-5 corridor is going to be heavily hit within the next few years, I think we need to be on that bandwagon. And in addition to trying to attract businesses to come to town, my main concern is also business retention and trying to educate the merchants in town as to shopping styles and some different trends that I think are happening that our community needs to be aware of. So those are just my personal ideas, and I certainly would be willing to take any suggestions that the council has. I think that our previous committee was really good. I just think we needed a little more direction, a little more goal setting, and I would like to see that that come to be. A couple of things that we talked about before was a possibility of hiring an outside broker or something to go around and talk with Bay Area companies about relocating and what their ideas are, what they thought were important, what kind of infrastructure they needed, and so forth, and that's also something that I think would be important. My number one concern, though, would be business retention and development here locally. And I'd like to see us have some kind of meeting with the merchants and businesses to try and get their thoughts and just kind of pull everybody together and have everybody go in the same direction. So, okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Susan? No?
I just want to thank you for taking the time to be involved in our community. It's looking at the numbers, it's certainly important we retain them and attract them.
It's kind of interesting. Charles and I just came back from a League of Cities convention in San Jose, and this is one of the very things they were talking about, is that we need more people from our that are volunteered to do this sort of thing, to make things happen in our community, because we can't afford a lot of these things. But so Susan, you're to be commended.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. So can we have direction on this to reinitiate the Newman Economic Development Committee and appoint Susan Mattis to chair this, and she will bring back some names of people to serve on this?
I move reinitiation of the Newman Economic Development Committee.
Second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you again, Susan. Item number 10, these are items from the city manager.
Just a couple of things.
Or did you want to approve item G?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you.
Item G, this approval of warrant 174398 to PG&E.
I make a motion, we approve warrant 174398 to PG&E.
I second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0 with 1 abstaining and 1 absent. Thank you. Go ahead, Cleve.
Thank you. Just quickly, a couple of items that I wanted to bring up. Number one, I gave you, with your pack, not in your packet, but with the information you were given, an updated report on the Tatarek facility. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at that and see what is going on there. Any of the community that wants to see that, you're welcome to get a copy at City Hall. I know the newspaper has a copy, and we'll possibly be doing a report on that. But if you want to see what is going on, you can come and ask me questions, or I'm willing to give you a copy of that report also. Basically, all of the water that they have out there currently is to be undercover or removed by October 15th. And so that is what they are working on right now. They're currently in the process of trucking some of the water out and covering what they don't believe they will get trucked out. So anyway, they're going through a process right now. And then there's several tests and pilot programs that will be taking place over the next month to see whether what they're proposing is going to work or not. So if there's any questions any council had on that, but you should have that report with your agendas. Next item is, you recall at our, I believe it was our last council meeting, we had an item on the agenda which was the traffic light upgrades, and we tabled that item. I just want to let you know that our traffic lights are already upgraded. We have the new equipment in them. We questioned that when we first got them because ours were new, and we finally got the answer back from Caltrans that ours are already upgraded. So that's, you will not be seeing that back on your agenda even though we tabled it. I just wanted to let you know that. The final item that I wanted to mention and let the council know, as you may recall, in our it's in the final budget. It was also in the preliminary budget to establish a city newsletter that we want to try and put out twice a year. We are currently working on that. I'm planning on distributing that around November 1st. We have a slate of items that will fill that up, but if there are any pressing items that the council wanted to think about putting in there, you're welcome to let me know, and I'll see if we can get them in there. But right now it looks like it's going to be pretty full for this first one. So, and that's all I have, unless you have any other questions.
Any questions for Cleve?
I did have a question regarding the senior housing project. Is there any updated timetable on groundbreaking for that?
As I understand, they're still planning in November, hopefully, to break ground. Is that correct, Margaret?
November.
They ran into some real problems with the building removal, the house that is on the project, and being able to do it.
To get all the clearance
Uh-huh.
back, because it's federal and state money, a little more difficult.
Yeah. But
So
they're
perhaps,
they're
yeah.
close. Yeah.
Thank you.
You will also have an item relating to that on your next agenda that we'll be bringing back. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Councilmember Martina?
Just briefly to mention that just returned from a convention in League of Cities in San Jose. Very exciting. Get an opportunity to talk to a lot of different towns about the different things that are going on and get an idea to see where we're at as far as how we're doing. And I can say one thing, we're doing extremely well. And you get an idea as far as what the future looks like. And of course, that's one of the things, here we are as part of this council, and we're talking about the senior housing project, and this project has been ongoing for how many years? So it's like it started with a group of people and it's been passed on to us and it's continued. So that sort of thing has to continue with our government in the projects that will come 5 years, 10 years down the road. We have the vision to see that the importance of what we're doing. But it was very exciting, and it's too bad that we all can't attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Councilmember Radford?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilmember Reed?
Yeah, a couple of things quick. One thing is I'd like to commend the Women's League for their concerts in the park the last Sunday, and I believe 2 Sundays before that. Very disappointed in the number of people that turned out. It seems like everyone's asking, what is there to do in Newman? Nothing to do in Newman. But when something is put up like this, they don't turn out for it. And they really put a lot of time, money, effort into this. And it was very good. And Sundays, this past Sunday's turnout was better than the first one. But there were like 100 people. I think I counted 105 people, including the workers there. So that's not very good for that. But anyway, I think they did a fine job, and I want to commend them for it. And one other thing, I'd like to see if staff could possibly periodically, even every quarter or whatever, put a article in the newspaper updating all of our ongoing projects, the downtown, the senior project, Otaric, other pending things. It was brought up a few weeks ago in Bill Mattis' column about a lot of these things are started and then they just kind of fall apart or no one knows anything about them. If we could just update people on these, whether we're making much progress or not, at least everyone knows we are still working on them. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I have a couple items. First thing is, actually I have a request from the, it wasn't on the agenda in time. Tomorrow night at SAG Policy Board, Cleveland. I haven't had a chance. I just got my agenda today, so I haven't had a chance to really go through it. Cleve tells me how much. Maybe you might want to give the update since you have all the information.
SAG has approximately, SAG, they're actually STANCOG is their new name now. There's approximately $11 million of CMAQ funding, which is funding to improve air quality in the community, and there's approximately $11 million that they're programming or funding right now. We had put in a request for two things: our downtown streetscape and for the widening of Yellow Avenue. As you recall, I believe it's from Fig Lane to T Street, where it narrows down quite a bit. And what has come out of that preliminarily, the policy board meeting is tomorrow night, which is when the decision will actually be made. Preliminarily, they're looking at funding the Yellow Street project because there's a formula which they use which comes up with a certain emissions reduction and then a cost efficiency factor as a result of that. And the Yellow Street project was funded. However, the
What was the amount?
streets, that was approximately $376,000, I believe. The streetscape project that we requested funding for was not approved. It was there was actually two that fell out of the total of funding amount that was available, and ours was one of those based on the cost efficiency rating that they did. There are some questions as far as that may still be addressed, where possibly that could be funded, if not right now, in the future. The other item, though, I've discussed briefly with the mayor, and he felt that perhaps the downtown streetscape project would perhaps be a higher priority than the YOLO widening project. And so perhaps if we get council's opinion on that, then the mayor will know how to vote on that tomorrow night and what direction to take. So just if we could comment on that perhaps for a minute.
Basically what I mentioned to Cleve was the fact that I believe I could possibly get the policy board to transfer those funds from the YOLO widening over to the streetscapes program for downtown. That way we have, nearly $400,000 more to go towards our downtown. But we wanted to bring it back to the council to see if that was something they would be interested in, to see us try and transfer those funds to the streetscape.
Mm-hmm. Is it something, because it wasn't an agenda item, can we ask for direction on that?
You're really not taking action, so for direction purposes, that's all right.
Yeah, I'll be voting on this tomorrow, so I just,
Okay.
Rather than just go there and ask for these funds to be transferred, I just, basically wanted to get a sense before, without asking the council.
I guess one thing I'm not clear on is how does widening of the street or downtown streetscaping relate to air quality?
Well, we do, as every other jurisdiction does. It may be stretched somewhat, but one of the things is that with the YOLO bike lane, it actually comes out pretty good because it's improvement of the bike lane and making that more usable. If you look at that over there, there's hardly room. I'm surprised there's a bike lane in that area because there's not really room for one. This would widen it out so that it could have a good bike lane the way it should be, with the parking also there.
So it's
and allow for
alternative
that.
transportation
Right.
modes.
So the theory is that you make better bike lanes, more people would allow their kids to ride bikes to school rather than driving them to school.
And my argument to them tomorrow night will be that we'll have people actually walking on the sidewalks downtown because they won't be afraid to, we'll actually have pedestrians walking on those sidewalks.
And this is used in other areas also. For that example, they will simply state that if you make your downtown more pedestrian friendly, people will park at one end and walk through rather than park at one end, go to one store, drive down to the other end and go to another store. That's again, the theory behind reducing the emissions.
Right.
Is YOLO a truck route presently designated as?
Yes.
Is there any way we could change that? I mean, I've never quite understood why that even exists.
In the sake of, we've probably addressed this thing about a half a dozen times already. We can bring this back if you'd like. What would probably be better is, Cleve could give you some of the information that we've, some of the concerns from the public and some of the questions that we've had and everything. But again, I mean, if you'd like, you're within your rights to bring this back. But what would probably be better if you could give Bob a lot of the information that we've discussed. Actually, I remember first hearing about this thing in 1992, and this thing keeps periodically coming up. So
Okay.
but we could do that. All right. You'll get.
Well, why don't we talk and
Sure,
then you can
that'd be
decide. You
fine.
can still put it on the agenda if you'd like to.
Okay. So if the council would, I guess like I said, I'm going to this meeting tomorrow night. If there isn't a lot of dissension as far as the widening over there, I'll go ahead, Dave.
My only question on it is the idea of getting the sidewalks on Yellow. We have a narrow street and we have no sidewalks.
Well,
basically.
this project would put both bike lanes and the sidewalks on
Yes,
there,
I know,
so there
but,
would be.
yeah, but aren't we taking the funding away from this to
Well,
put
that's
into the
what
downtown?
the mayor is
Right.
requesting.
I know those sidewalks need to be done too, but we've been talking about these.
I mean, I'd love to see the downtown
Yeah.
done, but too, first really, but
It just,
I just have a question on.
we don't
sidewalks.
normally have, what's our share usually of CMAQ funds, Cleve?
Actually, our allotted share, according to the way they did the formula, only comes out to about $78,000 this year.
Yeah.
This go around anyway.
So we're talking, this year, they're doing this big windfall of funds. I
More money
think,
that was-
yeah, we did some formula to where a lot more, this 11 million came out to, we allocated it to be for local projects. And so the next round of CMAQ funding, as far as, a big amount of money, we're talking, a few years down the road. So this seemed to be the only opportunity, in addition with the redevelopment funds that we're talking about doing our sidewalks. Because not only are we talking about doing the sidewalks, we're talking about putting in the irrigation lines for the trees and everything downtown. And we're trying to, get this thing. I just think that nearly $400,000 in addition to our redevelopment would go a long ways in fixing up these sidewalks in the downtown. Because
You could tell them that everyone's going to ride a bicycle downtown, so maybe get both of them funded.
well, as long as they're on the streets, because I know they just stenciled the. But if is this something that the council wishes to have this transferred or not to the downtown?
David makes a very good point. Are there other sources we could look to help us with the downtown streetscape? Redevelopment, yes, but are there other sources of funding?
I know we've
Or
been.
would there be other sources of funding for YOLO?
I know all I'm saying is on this downtown, we've been looking for alternative sources of revenue. That's why I don't think it's been done in several years. We've been talking about this thing for a long time, and we've always said that we're going to look for alternative sources for grant money, for this and that. And, we still see what condition those sidewalks are in. And, just to add one thing is, we're talking about the groundbreaking next month on this senior housing complex.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll have some of those residents walking downtown, and, it's supposedly going to be done next October or next November. I would just like to see them, walking on some safe sidewalks downtown. But again, that's my dilemma that I bring to the policy board tomorrow night on whether the council wants to see those sidewalks done or not.
Well, the question is, can we afford to do that? What I'm saying is, are we going to, where do we put YOLO as far as, in the future, as far as what's going to happen there?
Well, as other things that we've had priorities for things, we've added things, my understanding has always been that the downtown has always been the #1 priority. And, I don't ever remember YOLO coming up on very many meetings as to being a high priority. And, you know, granted, I know that area over there that we're talking about needs to be widened at some point, but, you know, we've been talking about these downtown sidewalks for a long time. And those have always been priority number one. And, you know, this streetscape doesn't happen without the sidewalks. And, you know, this is $400,000 that would go a long way. And, you know, I just, you know, you look at the priority list that we've established, and downtown's always been the number one priority. So this just seems like a way to get the project rolling. I mean, because I'm afraid what's going to happen here is we say, okay, we'll move this money over to YOLO, and you know, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, we're still sitting here saying, you know, this downtown streetscape project would be awful nice if we just had the money to do it. And you know, one of the things that's really frustrating, you look at the old downtown revitalization map that RRM did in 1995, August of 95. I mean, we're 4.5 years almost into that plan, and it's still sitting there, and you know, nothing has happened on that. And you know, I imagine if we don't do this, we're going to find ourselves in a couple of years saying, you know, we'd sure like to have those sidewalks replaced. We'd sure like to see, you know, these people downtown are planting these flowers in these trees there, but you know, you keep looking at them, they keep dying because we don't have any irrigation under those sidewalks. To me, it just seems like this is finally the opportunity that, you know, people have been asking us, when are you going to do those sidewalks? When are you going to fix the sidewalks? You know, we always tell them, you know, when we get money and everything else. This just finally seems like the opportunity for people to have faith in the fact that we're going to complete these sidewalks. You know, this is a big project, and I think people will see that.
What was the total anticipated cost for that, for the downtown streetscape? Wasn't it over $1 million?
Yeah, it's about 1.5, 1.6.
And that's with everything, with
yeah.
with the furniture, with everything. I mean, and you know, like we have said, you know, the first priority is the sidewalks, and obviously that's not going to come out to the 1.5 million. But this amount, in addition with some redevelopment money, will certainly go a long way in replacing those sidewalks. Anyway, that's my spiel. If I could either go to the policy board tomorrow night and say, let's leave the funds where they're at, or, you know, we'd like to transfer them to get our downtown fixed up. But I have one vote here, so I have one vote here, so I'm just asking to see.
Well, I don't think we're opposed to transferring the funds, but we just want to make sure that it's the right decision.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with transferring it.
Okay.
It's like, are we going to hurt ourselves by doing it? What I'm saying is, are we making the correct decision?
I think we are. I think we're looking at our priority list, and we're starting to take care of those top priorities that are on there. And as I said, the downtown has always been the number one priority, and this is just a way to fund our number one priority. You know, we're trying to bring more people into town. We're trying to, you know, fix up the sidewalks to make it pedestrian friendly to bring people here. So as far as I'm concerned, priority number one has never moved from downtown.
It's just a shame that we have to have this answer so soon. I'd like to get out and talk to some of the residents and find out what their thoughts are on this. Is it more important to have sidewalks for the kids over there on YOLO, or is it more important to get this downtown moving?
And unfortunately, we just barely heard about this.
Yeah, I
and
understand
the policy
that.
board meeting's tomorrow night. So, I mean, I suspect, you know, from the people that I talk to, is that, you know, they want to see this downtown. They want to see these sidewalks replaced downtown. And that's just, you know, that's just the people I talk to. I mean,
We've got a few residents here. What do you think?
I think we need to do the downtown if we want to keep any businesses in here.
Okay, that's one vote for downtown.
We need to do it.
I agree. Downtown, that's where your income, Joe's not going to
Right,
income.
where you gonna get your taxes at if you don't do it?
Yeah.
I'll make my first recommendation to the development committee.
It looks as though.
well, it seems like,
yeah.
Mr. Rose, what do you think?
Well, YOLO, if we go through all the expense, it needs to be widened, yes. If that was moved to number 2, the only problem with putting in the sidewalks in that area there, the kids don't use the sidewalks that are there already. They use the streets and they walk in
In
East
groups.
Street all the way down. So, I mean, I've often wondered why we don't have the police at that corner are in yellow from, 245 to 315 because there's so many
We've done a
kids over
random
there.
sample
A
of the
street
community.
a mile wide wouldn't help.
Okay. Okay. Well,
But you do need to I do think you need to, if you do move it, you need to let them know that it has been moved up. Even though you only got 5 years on the first one, at least let them know that it has been moved, that it is a priority.
right.
The yellow widening. Mhm.
Yeah, and again, we don't think that it's not, at some point, something that we're going to do, but as I've said, priority number one has always been taking care of the sidewalks downtown, and, if we could take care of until we could take care of priority number one, then we could work our way down to the other ones, is all I'm saying. But it appears to me that we've just done a random sampling of some of the community here, and it sounds
Okay, we'll let
quite
you know.
unanimous to me.
I'll give you my opinion.
Okay.
I think you can change it to number
Okay,
one.
okay.
as far as
I'll,
the
I'll vote for the downtown
I will
project,
So
yeah.
Okay.
we wanted to make you earn it. We didn't want to.
Thank you. Okay, so I will request tomorrow night at STANCOG Policy Board that we transfer these $376,000 in funds to the downtown streetscape project, and I will bring a report back at the next council meeting. One quick item, I just want to thank the Planning Commission. We had these on the consent calendar, these annexations for these developments in town, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for all their work on this. Secondly, just want to congratulate Oristimba High School for winning the chief back. Unfortunately, the chief couldn't make an appearance here tonight, but he is in safe possession in Newman, I'm told. So again, I just want to thank them for doing a good job last Friday. With that, I will ask for an adjournment if there are no other items.
I move for adjournment.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.